Well, welcome to the IHSFA Coaches Clinic 2020, to the New Coaches Academy. Just want to say thank you guys so much for contributing to our activity and keeping it alive. Some of you are probably taking over existing programs that have maybe just needed a new coach. Maybe you had a coach step down to an assistant position. Maybe you're taking over and starting a completely new program. And either way, I just want to say you're valued in this community, and I just want to take my time to say that I appreciate your efforts and your time that you're dedicating to this activity, because it is a wonderful activity that I don't know where I would be today without. It provided me, who a very competitive guy, who anybody knows me, I love watching sports. I'm very competitive, but I didn't have the natural physical tools to be a gifted athlete. And so I was gifted with an opportunity, though, to use my mental fortitude and passion for public speaking in a competitive environment. And I think that what we do is extremely important. So again, just want to say thank you for doing what you do. Just want to give you a little background information about myself. And we'll get to know each other a little bit, or at least I'll get to know you a little bit. I imagine maybe you guys got to know each other a little bit in the last session, but I don't know all of you yet. And so, we'll take a moment and learn about each other. But just about me. So I'm Ronnie Swango. I'm the director of forensics, which is just a real fancy title for the head coach of speech and debate at North Central in Indianapolis. I've asked them to change the title because it's not really, we don't usually use forensics much anymore as a title. And so, but that's what I do. I'm at North Central. I am an IHSFA alum, so I competed in Indiana, and in 2011, I was a state champion in original performance and a national quarterfinalist in humorous interpretation. I competed in college, as I mentioned before this recording. I was in a conversation there. IUPUI, back when they had a program in 2011 and 2012. So I competed there for a year. I'm in my 6th year of coaching. I have coached 3 years at Richmond High School, and I was a assistant coach over at Noblesville for a year. Also did some middle school coaching that year, and then last year I took over the program at North Central High School. So since I've been coaching, I've coached multiple state finalists. I've been blessed to have some amazing students, including 2 state champions, one at Richmond and one at Noblesville, and hopefully we'll get one here at North Central in the coming years. And I coached Richmond High School to a sectional championship back in 2018 before I moved on to a new position. Just going to do this little intro game here, a little icebreaker. First, I just want you to kind of start with your name, your school, and your title. So tell me, are you an assistant coach? Are you a head coach? Are you speech? Are you debate? Let me get to know a little bit about you. And then just answer one of the following questions so you can kind of take your pick here. So the first question, what was the weirdest hobby you picked up during quarantine? I didn't really pick up anything weird myself, but I did this icebreaker with some kids at our call-out meeting this week, and there's some really interesting things. Some kids who picked up crocheting and all sorts of other stuff. Another one is, we live in a technological world, so imagine being in quarantine and you only have 3 apps. What are those 3 apps going to be on your smartphone? What are those? You have to delete all but 3. What are they? If you are a professional wrestler, it's like my guilty pleasure. As a kid, even to adulthood, I've always enjoyed watching the fake wrestling on TV. So if you were a professional wrestler, what would your entrance song be? And then if you had to be a part of a fictional family, a book, a movie, whatever, what would you be a member of? So let me start here, and let's just, do we have a volunteer who just wants to go first? I'll actually keep this up here. Do we have a volunteer who wants to go first and just introduce yourself a little bit? Maybe one of the veteran coaches can step in, and I'll pick on Elliott here from Noblesville, who I coached with last 2 years ago. So Evan, tell us about yourself.
Ronnie and I have gotten to work with each other quite a bit, and we're the young guns. So my name is Evan Elliott, and I'm entering my 10th year at Noblesville. This will be my first year, practically my first year, not as head coach of the program. And my brother Chase Elliott, who will be here more throughout the week, and is the head coach this year. So he's a former competitor. former duo champ in 2014. And my situation is a little different. I'll answer your icebreakers here, Ronnie. But my situation is a little different in that I only competed in speech and debate for a semester, my last semester of senior year. And the program had just been created. I had no idea what I was doing when I took over my program. I was 20 when I took over my program. And so we really built a fun program that started with, and I'll be very frank, I went out and I said, I'm going to go get a bunch of popular kids. And that's what I did. I basically recruited a lot of popular kids who everybody liked, made them feel special, and they recruited the rest for me. So we got up to about 65, 70 students one year. And that was too many. All credit goes to Fishers and Munster and those programs who maintain that many every year. So thank you. So icebreakers here. My 3 apps would be Facebook, Twitter probably right now, and well, my messages app, because I'm texting all the time. And my entrance song would probably be Living on a Prayer. And yeah, those are a few of my icebreakers.
Yeah, so you don't have to answer all of those, guys. You can just choose one of those. I'll put those back up on the screen here. And I'm just going to speed things along, I'm going to kind of just do some cold calling, so don't think I'm trying to put you on the spot, but I'm just going to go down the list here. So Brian Locker, tell us about yourself. Or tell me about yourself. Do we have Brian?
Yeah, sorry about that. I was letting my dog out.
You're good.
I am from Decatur Central High School. This is my first year coaching. I think I'm most interested in debate and oratory, but I'm not sure yet. Just kind of, researching as you guys talk about the different types of speech. So, icebreakers. Yeah, I got into woodworking. I spent my stimulus checks on power tools. Let's see what else.
Nice. That's good. You don't have to answer all of them. They were just it was basically just one of the questions. You guys don't have to answer them all.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Yep.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, cool. So you guys don't have to answer all of them. You don't have to feel the need there. Just wanted you to choose one to let us know a little bit about yourself. Thank you, Brian. So down the list here.
Yep.
Craig, are you in here?
I am. I'll give a visual.
All right, Craig.
I see you guys at speech meets. This is it's my 3rd year as a coach, but started out and the program was pretty much nothing, and we're just slowly working our way. So I'm still learning a ton of stuff. That's why I'm doing this right now. But excited to learn more. And I want to say it's necessarily weird, but I got to spend a lot of time playing disc golf during quarantine. So that was really exciting for me.
That's awesome. They're starting a disc golf league back in my hometown, so that's
really
pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, Gabriel, tell us a little bit about yourself for those folks who maybe didn't get to know you a little bit in the first session.
Well, hey guys. My name is Gabriel. Can you hear me? I have my mic on now, I think. Okay.
You're good.
My name is Gabriel Glover, and just excited to be back in this community. I did 2 years at Fishers High School. Kind of wish I would have started earlier, but I was involved in some other stuff. But competed at Fishers for 2 years. I graduated in 2019. I mainly did extemp and impromptu, pretty much stayed in my lane there throughout high school. And then I spent my first year of college, I was working on some stuff that took me to Ball State and got to get on their speech team there, did extemp and impromptu. I joined them the second semester and just experimented in some other events as well. And then we all got sent home. So since then, I've kind of been able to actually stay more in the Indy area. I'm now doing an online business program because I had a big career change shift kind of thing. So I'm able to join up and be an assistant coach at Fishers. So super excited to be now kind of local again. So no offense to Muncie, but I'd say one of the icebreakers for me is that unapologetically, man, over quarantine, I got back to when I was in junior high. I was a big like stock market finance money nerd. I don't know how it happened, but I kind of got back to that the last 6 months because I saw an intersection between that issue and a lot of the kind of equity opportunity issues that were kind of putting a strain kind of on my heart this last year. So I've been diving into that, not just for the idea of playing in the stock market, but using those skills to hopefully give a lot of people of all different backgrounds, not just high net worth, opportunities. So that's kind of where I'm going. That's kind of what I've been working on. And yeah, excited to be back and coaching. So
Awesome. Thank you, Gabe. Jeff Arvin, are you still in the meeting here? I saw a couple Jeff Arvins poke out, so I don't know if the real Jeff Arvin, please stand up. I think there was some technical difficulties there. There was like multiple Jeff Arvins in the session. All right, let's go to Jessica. Is it Fehrenbacher?
Hey, Ronnie, can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, yeah, you're correct. It's Fehrenbacher. My husband and I just took over as head coaches at Wright's Memorial here in Evansville. Our coach last year decided to step down kind of mid-season, so we weren't really prepared to be head coaches. So it's a brand new. I'm doing most of our interp kiddos, and he's going to be doing all of the limited prep, the extemp, impromptu kids, because that's what he competed in at Mater Day and then IU. So huge learning curve. I really appreciate you guys and all the work you're putting in to help us out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any for the icebreakers, any weird hobbies you picked up during the quarantine?
I painted a ton, lots of rooms, furniture, outdoor furniture, all kinds of stuff.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing. So Kyle was next on the list. He said he's not really in a position to talk at the present time. Want to be respectful of that. But Kyle's joining us. He's from Rossville High School. He's an assistant coach, former member of the IU Kokomo speech and debate team. And if he, nice for his music, he'd be part of the Hart Foundation as the manager of Bret the Hitman Hart, even though he prefers Ric Flair's "Woo!" And he's very glad to be here. So thank you, Kyle, for sharing. Another wrestling fan. Awesome. All right. Next, we have Kylie. I think it's iCourse. Is that correct?
Yes. This is my first year as an assistant coach. I graduated from Elkhart Central High School, where I'm now teaching, in 2013. So it's nice to be back. And I did speech all 4 years there as a student, and it really just changed my life. I was a really shy, quiet kid. I almost quit the team after the first week, but my coach was like, no, you should stay, and it ended up being like the best part of high school. So glad to be back, do that. We're just going to pretty much help our kids with whatever they're interested in. I did Congress and a lot of interp, so I should be able to cover all areas. Quarantine hobby I picked up was I learned how to sew. I tried gardening, but it didn't go very well. So, but those are just a couple.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Kylie, and welcome. All right, Linda Langford. Linda Langford left the meeting. Let's go down to Ruth Ann Munger here. Ruth Ann, are you here? Okay, I see. So Ruth Ann wrote something in the chat here. So she's a new first-time coach at Connersville High School. So she did compete in high school. She was active in community theater, volunteered because nobody else was going to. And so her weird hobby was painting by numbers. So I think we had Jeff Arvin hop back in the meeting. Jeff, are you here?
I am, but it's a passing period, so you might be able to hear our bells.
I can. So Jeff, just introduce people to who you are. And yeah, I don't know if you saw the icebreaker questions.
Yes. We just had some audio issues, so sorry about that. So I'm Jeff Arvin. This is Leslie Cheney. I don't know if you can see both of us. We're hijacking the meeting together. We're both coaches at Warren Central, have been for, 9 years for me, 11 years for Coach Chaney. So yeah, we've got some experience. Let's see here. As I recall, the questions were like coronavirus hobby that you picked up.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, we adopted a dog. So that's been our new coronavirus hobby, is lots of walks and park trips and all kinds of cool stuff with the dog. And then
I picked up diamond painting. So you basically put these little plastic like pebbles onto a canvas and it makes like a 3D piece of art.
Cool. Yeah. So there you go. So that's us.
Thank you so much. All right, let's hop back into the presentation now. Let's see. And I'm just going to give you guys some quick tips and strategies that I want to share with you. And so I kind of went with a Spider-Man theme here. And so tips for the new superhero, otherwise known as a speech coach. So what they should have told me, and I want to kind of share the classic quote here from Spider-Man, which is, with great power comes great responsibility. And, you now have a tremendous opportunity, and there's some responsibility that goes with that. And sometimes as a new coach, you might be, really just, especially right now, we're in a state of question, like, what do I do now? So how do I get my team going? What are some questions I should ask? And so I put together tip number 1, ask some responsible questions. And so here's some questions that you should really seek to ask your administration. In regards to transportation, some schools will ask their coaches, depending on the size of the team, to drive a minibus. So that's definitely something you want to ask your admin. Are you going to be asked to drive a minibus? And if so, what certification do you or your assistant coaches need, and how do you get that? So I know that varies from school to school. When I was at Richmond High School, we had to take like an hour-long course, like with the driving instructor, and then we also had to watch the videos, take a little quiz there. And then this past year, we had basically a similar thing. It was, they checked your license, and then they would take you on a driving course. So definitely want to check that. A lot of this is going to be, this first part is going to be a lot of questions you should really just ask that you get an idea and you don't find yourself in a situation where, you don't know what you're supposed to do. And some of these are really important questions as far as fundraising is concerned, et cetera. So, like, what is the cost of a minibus? Even if you're not the one driving it, you need to know what is the cost, and are you going to be responsible for that? Is there a flat rate? Is it based on mileage? Do you have to pay for gas? What's the cost of a large bus? A lot of large buses. So let's say you're taking over a team that has a fairly decent sized squad, and you're going to have to take the large yellow buses. What's going to be the cost of that? Sometimes it's good mileage and gas plus paying the driver. And so that might direct your decisions as to how many tournaments you go to and which tournaments you go to. So if you go to a tournament that's 2 hours away, obviously you're going to be paying that driver a significant amount more time because of the fact that they're going to be driving 2 hours there and then 2 hours back. So how soon do trips need to be approved before competition, and who approves those trips? So, especially like me going to a new school, I had to learn that. So new administration, bigger school, not everything went to the head principal. So who do I get these trips to? How long in advance do I have to get those? These are questions you want to ask. And a lot of this is different considering we're in a coronavirus world, but still important. You need to ask what the proper forms are. Are speech and debate trips considered field trips? That's especially important, I think, in a coronavirus world, because let's say you're in a program right now where your school is allowed to operate with other people, like physically in the room together. And some districts have made the decision that there will be no field trips in this school year or in this semester. So ask if the speech and debate trips are considered field trips, or are they different? And this is an important question because it can actually end up helping you if you just ask. Sometimes schools won't let you know until you ask, but is there a slush fund or a student activities fund that could assist your team in traveling cost? That's something that I learned, that if you ask, sometimes there is something, but if you don't ask, they won't tell you. And then parents and judges, you might ask about what's the policy about riding with students, if they're going to ride the bus, do they need background checks, et cetera. So you just want to check that out. This is probably more geared toward those head coaches, but just wanted to make some responsible questions for you to ask your admin. And then What is the school and district policy on students being in a car with a supervisor or coach? So maybe you're a small program. I know some schools have allowed this, and it's like maybe you have 3 or 4 kids and you think, you know what, easiest thing to do is just pack me my SUV and drive. Never assume that. Always ask your school, what's the policy on that? This is also important for, like, maybe you have those kids whose parents just, they want to be a part of the team and they say, you know what, but my mom and dad won't get up that early and take me to the team bus. Sure, you're wanting to, you know, be kind and say, oh, well, I could pick you up on my way. Put the brakes on that. You need to talk to your district about what those rules are. I know at my district that is absolutely not allowed. And also, if you wouldn't be comfortable giving a student like a ride to the school, to the bus, don't even offer it as an option. But it's still an important question to ask in the event of emergency. So let's say, you know, the bus is unloaded, it's 5 degrees outside. Maybe your school doesn't let you in the building on the weekends without certain clearance or keys and stuff. It's been 20 minutes. You need to get home. The kid's parent hasn't showed up. What do you do? Who do you call in that situation? So that's a question you need to ask, because, you know, I know some schools it will be a situation where they have an officer who can come and give that student a ride. I've had to call an Uber for a student before, because it's just one of those situations. So these are questions you need to ask because you are going to be responsible. And that's not to put fear, but that's just to make you understand the responsibility that is involved with your position now. And then fundraising. This is a big question right now, and I think in 2020 with the COVID-19 world, are there any types of fundraisers that are not permitted by the school and district? So it might be tempting to start an EDCO or a GoFundMe for your team season, but some schools really do have really strict policies against these because they might take a percentage of the proceeds, and that might be a complete no-no from your admin. So definitely ask about if there are types of fundraisers that are not permitted. Who do you send fundraiser requests to? What's the school's policy on donation letters? Some schools have this kind of policy where they don't want you to specify how many dollars you're asking. I think it's a little, little strict and a little bit too big brother getting in business, but it's just some schools' policy, so you definitely want to check. Are you permitted to charge student dues and or drop fees? And to whom do you deliver money to when you receive it for a fundraiser? So now we've kind of talked about, the responsibility stuff. Let's do establishing a culture. This is probably the biggest, one of the biggest things I think that a new coach needs to understand. And there's like three kind of ideas here I wanted to share when it comes to establishing a culture. First off is your expectations and procedures. What are your competition requirements? Are you going to say if your students if there are 8 tournaments, they must attend 6 out of 8 to be on the sectional team? That they must attend all of them unless they have a doctor's note or another competition they have to attend. Establish those expectations and procedures for your program. What are you going to require of them? Is there a uniform that you want them to have? Some schools have like maybe a school color. They might have specific guidelines that they want for both the guys and the girls that they need to wear, a specific type of suit. As far as, ask yourself, do you want some kind of uniformity to your team? There are drawbacks to that. I think that if it's obvious what your school's uniform policy is, or like you're using a color, that sometimes you may have those judges out there who, God forbid, they're biased toward a certain group, and maybe they don't like a certain school's coach or something like that. There is a drawback to having those uniforms where it's easy to point out your students. But I think I would speak on behalf of most coaches and judges that that's not the case for most people, but it's just something to think about. What are your practice expectations going to be? Are they going to be required to attend once a week, twice a week, every practice after school? And then ask yourself, are you a club, team, or program? And I'll get more into that in a second. Are you going to establish captains and officers, have that kind of student hierarchy going on? Your captains and officers need to be trusted, responsible students that have already bought into your culture that you've established and the expectations. Start small. Okay, I would say if you are a new program, and let's say you have 5 kids. I know like last year when I started I took over a program that had 3 previous students, and I decided that in my first year I was not going to appoint captains and officers. I thought, I want to establish a culture, and we grew the team to I think 10 kids last year, and then of those 10 kids, this year, knowing that you're probably still going to be somewhat small, I said, I'm only going to choose 2. I'm going to choose 2 captains, and that I know have bought into the culture. And as we expand and grow the program, if we get up to 40 students or so, I might appoint 2 more captains on top of that. So start small, get kids who have bought into your program that can help you, and be an influence, because we know kids influence other kids. And establish goals. What are your short-term goals right away? What are your end-of-season goals? What do you want your team to have accomplished? And then long-term, think that, and make the students aware of that. Make the students aware of these goals, because when students buy in and they're held accountable, when they're preventing the team from achieving that goals, I think it just increases that team attitude and that culture where students are holding each other accountable. You're holding students accountable, and it just creates a successful culture. So when we talk about club, team, and program, sometimes they're just interchangeable, but I like to think of a club as something that's just like less strict. Are you wanting to establish a club? It might change. You might go from a club to a team to a program. Or maybe you're right off the bat, you're like, you know what, I want to create a program. When I think of a club, again, it's less restrictive. It focuses more on building community and fun and refining skills, as opposed to really focusing on competition. And I want to say right off the bat, there's nothing wrong with choosing either of these 3. It's just a matter of what are you most comfortable with, and what do you want your program to be, or what do you want your speech and debate team to be? Are you going to be a team? I think a team has more clear expectations. And I think a team I think of is like a specific group of people, and it's designed to fit those specific kids on the current roster. And it focuses on, this is the team. This is our one objective through competition. Maybe it's like, we're going to win a tournament. And I think if a program is more of an ongoing, like let's say you're in this for the long haul, you see yourself building a team that lasts over 15 years or something like that. That's what I think of when I think of a program. It's creating clear expectations that it's designed to operate throughout several years in different teams as they come in. The community establishes ongoing those competitive objectives, and all members are expected to buy in from day one when they come. So I think of that as a program. It's sort of like a team is something like an NBA. It's like, okay, we're going to construct this roster, we're going to do this goal, and a program is more of like a collegiate program where it's like, this is the Duke way, the Notre Dame way, the Purdue way. It's a program, and when kids come to your program, they're expected to get with the program from day one. When I talk about captains and officers, are they interchangeable? I think to some degree, yes, but I like to think of officers as more of a voice for student representation. They handle more clerical work, like sorting your critique sheets, etc., and they can assist with peer coaching. Whereas I think the role of captain has with it a sense of leadership, and it makes the kids are responsible for making decisions, and they hold other students accountable for maintaining the expectations. They're expected to peer coach, and they might be over specific groups. So you might have a rookie captain and a veteran captain. You might have a captain that's in charge of the freshmen and sophomores, and a senior captain who's in charge of the juniors and seniors. Again, this is you get to choose. Maybe you want officers, maybe you want captains, maybe you don't want either. Perfectly up to you. But this is just some of the things I think of when I think of what titles I want to give students and how I want them to be a part of my program. So practices, I talked about this. How many days a week are you going to hold practices? What times? How are you going to operate them? Are they going to be open, or are they going to be broken up by events? Will there be signups? I want to talk to you about what I've done in the past and give you some benefits and drawbacks. And then I want to talk to you just about some things that I do now that I think I probably should have done. So in the past, I've done like event-based open practices, so maybe just 2 to 3 days a week. I had an interp day, I had a public address day, and then I had a team rehearsal on the week of tournaments, or on a week we didn't have tournaments, I just had an all-event open practice. And so some benefits of that, I think, are that you really establish that team camaraderie. More kids are at your practice. It allows for students in like events to work with each other while you work with individual students throughout practice, and it allows you to focus on particular skills for particular days. Some drawbacks, though, are that kids' schedules can conflict. Like maybe you have an interpreter who's like, I can't come on that day, and I don't want to do public address. So there's a conflict there. If the practice is open, it also opens the door to a lot of goofing off, but you can't set ground rules. So if your team, and also like if your team leans heavily one way, like if you have 20 interpreters and 5 public addresses, your interpreters are going to get a lot less one-on-one time if you only have one day specific for interp and one day for public address. And what I do now, and again, none of these are perfect, and I'm not telling you what to do. I'm giving you some options here. So I do now just time slots with coaches. So I have 2 days a week guaranteed, and others by appointment. I have 20-minute time slots with me and my assistant coaches and maybe the captains. Others can come to these practices, but they must be working in the hallways. They cannot just be simply goofing off. The benefits is that this ensures one-on-one time with each student, that you know who is practicing with what coach or captain and when, and students are held accountable to their slots. The drawbacks, though, is that you have less kids to practice and you have that less team bonding. An absent kid might mean a 20-minute time slot is empty or wasted. So if I had 5 slots open and only those 5 kids show up, or I should say only those 5 kids have planned to show up, and then 1 of them or 2 of them don't show up, now you've got another kid who's not going to arrive for 20 minutes, and so you have that 20-minute slot that's empty or wasted. And if you're a teacher, I'm sure if you're at the school, it's like I'm sure you can find something to do in those 20 minutes, and papers are great. But to those of you who come from outside the buildings, that your time is valuable, and so you need to hold your students accountable to that. It may require you to be available for more times and more days in order to fit in all your students, and so accountability measures have to also be created for those students who are not currently in a slot with you if they're at practice. But whatever your method is, just make sure you hold your students accountable for practicing. I can't push this enough. Your kids are going to get out of this what they put into it. I'm going to skip the breakout game for now because we started about 13 minutes late, and I need to get through everything before we go to lunch. So tip number 3 is just to establish those connections with your students, parents, and judges. So here's some things I've learned and some different resources for establishing connections. I'm sure many of you have heard of Remind. This is where you send out text, files, docs, links without giving away your actual phone number. And so remind.com is a good option there. Google Voice, it is kind of a cool option. Like I know my school asks that we not give out our actual number to students, and so Google Voice is a cool app that ties a fake number to your actual phone. You can give students that Google Voice number, and so they can call and text that Google Voice, and so can the parents. And it has a voicemail of its own that's separate from your phone. So it's a cool way to kind of be able to communicate easily through your phone, where students can call or parents can call without actually giving away your information. And then there's this really cool thing. So maybe you send out a letter and you want your kids to your parents to see that letter. There's a thing called S'more, and it requires a yearly subscription. I want to say it's like $90 for the whole year. So it's a matter of if you want to spend that money or not. But it allows you to kind of make these newsletters, and it has like the read receipt. So you can see, like, you send it out to the parent emails, and you can see, okay, John's parent read it. Linda's parent read it. And so-and-so's parent didn't read it. And so you can kind of see that and hold that connection. At least on your end, you're accountable to say, hey, I sent this out and it wasn't read. And no matter what method you use, please just never expect your students to relay information. They won't do it. And parents will end up telling you they had no idea about an event or reminder. So if you're just saying, hey, Johnny or Susie, here's the newsletter, take this home and have your parent read it, that is going to wind up crumpled up on the floor of their room, and a parent's going to tell you 2 months later, I didn't know we had a fundraiser that day. So don't ever expect your students to be the one that relays information, because unfortunately they won't do it. In terms of judges, if you're not familiar with this, most tournaments require 1 judge per 5 entries or fractions. So if you have 1 to 5 entries, 1 judge, 6 to 10, 2 judges, so on and so forth. But make your kids supply these judges. A lot of teams will make their students get commitments from their parent and their family members to judge before they're even allowed to compete. And then what's really important is that you train your judges. At a minimum, you should supply them with expectations for events and training on scoring, writing critiques. Now you say, hey, I'm new, I don't really know all the events. Well, hopefully you'll get to go to the New Coach Academy and learn more about the events, but there are resources available on the IHSFA.org page that has event descriptions on it. Also, the National Speech and Debate Association at speechanddebate.org has a lot of information on each event. But if you're not familiar with how we critique and score in speech, you always want to provide on your critiquing positive and negative feedback. And if a student does not get a 1, they must have something to work on. You want to check and avoid your biases. Judge based on skill and how well students achieve their purpose. So don't think like, some really strong right-wing student and you're a really strong left-wing viewer that, they don't get last because you don't agree with their policies. That's not what you're here to do. You're here to judge them based on their skill and how well they achieve their purpose. So also just something that, you know, again, it might seem like it's repetitive or obvious, but this, you just make sure you pound in the head of your judges that in a round of 6 students, a score of 1 is the best, as in first place, and a score of 6 is the worst, as in 6th place. There are no ties, and this is a big one. Never assume a rule has been broken. Rank the round the way you want to rank it, then go talk to somebody at the scoring table. So teach these things to your judges, and you as the coach, assuming you're going to be judging tournaments, you need to know these things as well. So tip number 4, it comes to fundraising. Just a couple ideas that you can do when it comes to fundraising. Dine and donate is a really easy way to promote your activity and to also get back some money. So I know Chipotle offers 33% of profits that go back to your team. So you promote, you talk to Chipotle, you get a specific night scheduled. Sometimes you got to schedule a couple months in advance. And you know, about 2 weeks before that, you get a flyer and you have your kids pass out that flyer. You post it on your school hallways, you get it on your student announcements, you hand it out to people at your church, your neighbors, whatever. You get the word out there. They show that flyer, or they tell the clerk they're there to dine with the speech team. You get 33% of profits back. My teams have made, I think, up to like $300 or $400 when I only had a team of maybe 15 students. So it was a really easy way to make some money. Applebee's, Texas Roadhouse, etc. I think they typically do about a 10% dine and donate as well. One thing, again, I talked about this earlier, team dues. So if you're not familiar with this, you know, students pay a specific amount each to offset overall cost of the season. So you want to ask your school about its policies regarding dues. Can you charge them? And if you do charge people dues, do you have to itemize them and tell them specifically what their dues are going toward? In the past, you know, I know teams that charge $100 per student. I know teams that have charged like $15 per student. It just is a matter of what kind of money is in your team's fund and what kind of money is going to be going and allotted to each individual student throughout the year. And then some things you can sell. So obviously you can sell if you're making t-shirts and you've got a decent sized team, start talking to some businesses in the area and see if they would sponsor and you put the logo on the back of your t-shirts. That's a way to sometimes make some money here. It might even be like just $100 sponsorship, and you get 3 logos on the back, and you know that's $300 that you didn't have before, and you put it on the back of your shirts, and now they're getting advertising, and you're getting some money to help you with some things. Ozark Delight lollipops. Now, when we get back to actually, you know, being in a full 100% in person, this is a really great fundraiser. I think it's like $180 and you get 480 suckers. So you make like $300 profit by selling them for $1 a piece. And kids love them. So I've heard them called crack suckers because they're so good. And so, you know, that's a good thing to sell. Suds, if you look that up, detergent, that's a good way to make some money, get a percentage of your sales. I've seen teams do trash and leaf bags, selling world's finest chocolates, again, $1 per candy bar. And then like Westfield did this year, and Holly Reineke, the Westfield coach, has been really promoting this, is creating custom masks that students can purchase. And this is just a way for your team to make a percentage back on selling masks that maybe just have your school's logo on it. So, you know, and everybody needs masks. Tip number 5, and this is huge, find yourself a mentor. Ideally, this person's going to be in your district or sectional, and definitely learn who your district and sectional chairs are. Our coaches in this community, and one of the things I love about our community is that every coach is usually willing to assist you in any way they can, including sharing tips and helping you understand your rules. Just ask. You know, I found that's the thing, is you got to ask people and they'll help you. You know, don't be intimidated. We were all in your position at once. Like Evan said, he was 20 years old, taking over a program, didn't know what he was doing. I'm sure he had to ask questions. I was 23 years old, had no idea what I was doing. I met Evan at Coach's Clinic my first year. Now he's one of my best friends. I call him and say, hey, what do you think about this? And he calls me, hey, what do you think about this? So having that mentor coach is crucial, and you will build off each other. If you need a mentor, just somebody to talk to and ask questions to, here's my contact information. So it's my school email is rswango@msdwt.k12.in.us. My personal, it's just my name, Ronnie Swango @gmail.com. I know I was lucky to get that. And if you want to follow my team's Twitter or Instagram, it's at NC, as in North Central Speakers. But probably the quickest way to reach me is my school email, because I'm Monday through Friday, I'm on it all the time. I have it connected to my phone. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. So just quick tournament tips before I get you guys out of here. Here's my advice for new programs and teams. Go to smaller tournaments at the beginning of the season. You get a better chance of placing, and you build morale. Kids are like, maybe you're in a new program and they go to a smaller tournament and they're like, oh wow, they got their ribbons and it's great, and they feel better because they see results of their work. Kids are really big right now on that instantaneous satisfaction, and not that it's guaranteed, but going to smaller tournaments just gives them a better chance at placing. And so in the beginning, try to attend tournaments that have those 4 straight rounds, so as soon as you get more feedback, they can score more NSDA points and they can get more critiques. That's the most important thing. And then as the semester progresses, go to bigger tournaments. Seek out those tournaments that have 3 rounds and then a final or next in final for the kids who are in the top 12 or top 6. And let your kids see where they stack up, and just have them watch those elim rounds. So if they don't make it to a final, there's a learning process in that. And so they go watch those elim finals, they go watch those final rounds, those next in finals, see why they didn't get in, and they learn. They think, okay, now I need to apply this, because maybe they didn't see those speakers throughout the day because they were double interned and all that stuff. Have them watch those rounds. It is so valuable. And some things to avoid, I could tell you, don't take placings personally. Don't think that you're a bad coach because your kids didn't place. This is a subjective event. Expect growing pains. There have been times where I get so frustrated because I put in all this work throughout the week and throughout the weeks, and I thought this kid was making such amazing improvements and they didn't break. Don't take it personally. Don't beat yourself up. Expect growing pains. Don't comment on a student's performance at a tournament. I'll just be forthcoming with this. I have been in a position where maybe I watched a piece and I didn't like it, and I see that it made the final round, and I go, how did that make it in? And I actually say it out loud, and then I feel terrible because I'm like, what if that student was behind me? Or what if that coach was behind me? Avoid that, because you never know who is watching, who is listening. So avoid commenting on a student's performance at a tournament. And then obviously don't burn yourself out. You need to remember you are human and you cannot pour from an empty cup. You may want to take your kids to every tournament, be at practice every day. And if you want to do that, that is perfectly it's perfectly fine. It's up to you. But also understand it's okay to take weekends off. It's okay to not have to have practice for 3 hours a day after school on top of your teaching or on top of your work life. It's okay. Don't burn yourself out. Don't feel guilty. You're an amazing superhero in these kids' lives, and they're going to remember you even in times where you don't feel like they're going to. Last couple things here before we get out of here, guys. Some resources. Black Book Depots, where you'll find books. Extemp Genie and Extemp Hub are good for extempers. 3-Piece Speech, Always Writing for You, Forensics Fanatics, and the Interp Store, and SpeechGeek.com are great resources for new coaches looking for scripts. YouTube, if you're an Interp coach, look up humorous interpretations, look up poetry interpretations, look up prose, watch it. If you like it, steal it. I mean, you're a new coach, you like that material, go find it and have your kid run it. And you can coach in a different way. It doesn't have to be the exact same way it was in the YouTube video, but steal it and learn. You're going to learn. And then speechanddebate.org is obviously our national organization. That's where you're going to find resources too about the final rounds, about information regarding events, etc. And here's stuff I wanted to leave you with, again, as my Spider-Man themed presentation. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. And you guys are amazing. You're going to make a huge impact in your student's life. And don't forget to just love what you do. There's a reason that you're doing speech and debate, whether it's just because you wanted to volunteer and help kids, or whether it's because you just genuinely love speech. Love what you're doing, embrace it, and you're going to do great work. Thank you so much. And it is very jumbled here, but if you have any questions, you can list me. You can email me. I don't know what happened to the font here. At rswango@msdwt.k12.in.us. And I think we have a minute until we go to lunch. So thank you all so much for stopping by. If you have any questions whatsoever, email me. I'll be happy to help you. I'll be happy to put you in touch with some people in your district and in your sectional.